today we're going to do something kind of special, like every Sunday is going to be special, right? In the Rock Tribe. What's that? There is, yeah. So, first of all, just one or two family matters. Did you want to share, Keith, and about the Master Bible training we're going to be doing? So Keith and Trish on Wednesday are going to do 2 sessions before they go back to Africa. These 2 sessions are going to give us the tools to do inductive Bible study together in our DNAs, our MKFs, and we're going to just learn this method of interacting with Scripture with questions. You want to just share a little brief word about it? This will be this Wednesday and next Wednesday at 5:30. We kind of need to know if you're coming because we're getting food. Maybe Nancy, talk to Nancy if you're coming. If you're, we know what group is coming, but if you want to join us that night, that would be great. So Keith, a little bit.
Yeah, so I really think in just one session, you'll walk out feeling like, yeah, I could lead a Bible study with an unbeliever in a way that it could become a house church. And so if that's interesting to you, come on out.
There you go. Is that awesome? When do you leave for Egypt? Yeah, hold on.
So I leave tomorrow, and so this Wednesday is going to be with Trisha.
Yay.
And then the next Wednesday, you'll get both of us. I'll be back Saturday.
Okay. He's just going to fly over to Africa, then come on, just whip on back. It's no big deal. And then you guys are going to be gone after Wednesday. So that's a sad and hard day for me, personally. Yeah, I don't even like to think about that one. Okay. So I think that's good for right now. So let me give you a Bible verse. John 13, 34 and 35. Jesus says, a new command I give you. A new command. Isn't that interesting? Jesus says, a new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. So the mark of a mature disciple is the degree to which they love God, experience God's love for them, the way they love themselves, because Jesus says love one another as you love yourself, the way they love one another, and then ultimately the way we love our enemies, which is the gold standard of loving. So we're a people, our group identity is we're a people who are fearlessly learning to love like Jesus. Okay, let's just say that. We are a people who are fearlessly learning to love like Jesus. Okay, that's our group identity. And when you're in the process of growing, it's important that you know how to talk to yourself under pressure. And you say something like this: it is like me and my people to love well. When you have a group identity and a personal identity, then you default back to your true identity when you're under pressure. Okay, you got that? So a group identity is you've so knit to the people. You've so knit to Jesus, you've so attached to the people that the people help synchronize your life so that you act like Jesus under pressure. And the question becomes, what would my people do? What would Jesus do? And then you can answer that question, and then suddenly, because you've practiced that in your life, you can pull that up when you're tempted to get in the flesh. And your flesh is your sarx. That's the Greek word for flesh. When you're tempted to get into your false self, you have a file in your brain from watching your people, working with your people, and that file can say, it's like me and my people to love fearlessly, even when it's difficult, even when it's painful. And then that becomes your new identity. That becomes your way of living. The goal is not to just know this information. It's to be this. I want to be like this. And being like this takes practice. It takes working out. And so we're on a journey as a people working out how to be fearless lovers like Jesus, who love God with all our heart, to love one another, to love ourselves, and to love our enemies. That's what we're doing. Now, we didn't have a lot of training in how to do this. You know, the church hasn't helped us very well because it's been more an informational-based culture. And we want all the good information. We want to know the Bible. We want to memorize the Bible. But ultimately, people that know the Bible and don't love well, their people are religious and their leader is Satan. Satan knows the Bible. He quotes the Bible. He'll use the Bible to whip and be mean-spirited. So I want to know the Bible, but I also want to be the Bible. I want to be the Word. I don't want to just know the Word. I want to be the Word. And so we're a people that are learning to love fearlessly. How many of you know that's a very hard thing to do? I am so proud of this family. We signed up to be like Jesus, to be disciples, but you get into the middle of this thing, and all of a sudden you find out it's harder, more painful than you think. And we don't all have the skills. I don't have the skills or the maturity or the health to do this well. So now we gather a group of immature people, wounded people. And we have to start practicing with people that are immature and wounded. That's a hard start. There's not a lot of us that are walking around radiating the love of Jesus the way Jesus did. So we have to help each other. We have to go to things, events and training, and turn to resources that will help us get there. So this morning, we're going to bring up some people that went to a recent training. This training was put on by a ministry that is connected to other ministries that are focused on learning to love. Now, the last thing I want us to do is think that we're glomping on to a ministry like whether Thrive or Life Model. We're not going to be known as the Life Model Church, the Thrive Church. We're going to be known as Jesus' church, the Kingdom Church. But we are going to turn to people that have got some competency, and we're going to learn from them. Janet and I, next month, are going to go to Heal for All Nations. And for about a week, we're going to be addressing any residual strongholds in our life, any mindsets that aren't in unity with Jesus. We're going to be trained in this. Personally, we're going to go through healing. I went through 3 days of inner healing myself not long ago. I'm learning. I'm trying to absorb this as fast as I can. Me personally, I'm trying to grow and get healed. But I also want our family to go on this together. So here's what I want to say. We're going to have some people sharing this morning about some experiences they had. But listen, their win is your win. You should don't ever feel in a family that you need to feel like left out or jealous or ripped off if somebody has a great experience in the Lord, because guess what? The culture of our family is whatever we get, we share with everybody else. So if somebody spends energy and money and time going to get equipped and healed, then their healing becomes your healing. Some of our people went to the Healing for All Nations. 3 people in our church have gone for that already. And then Jim and Janice went years ago. And they were the ones that kind of reopened the door to that experience. Before them, so after them in our church, 3 people have gone to that. And it's been a pretty meaningful experience, right?
I can't imagine not having gone now.
Yeah, it's like, I've heard that from everybody. You can't imagine having not gone. Now, here's the cool part. Eventually, in certain ways and without violating the patent or the insights that they've, whatever they're calling it, I would say their technology of doing this, without violating their confidentiality, the healing that's taken place in you, Laura, and others, will bleed into our family. So your win is our win. How many of you understand that? So you want to, if somebody has a win and you might not be able to go to it, eventually that win will end up rolling into your life. That's how team, and the kingdom's a team sport. It's a family sport, so to speak. And we're going to watch Jesus just start picking up momentum. Here's a word that Mary Arnold has for us. And she just was like constantly bringing it to me all the time. She goes, we're going to reach a point of critical mass. And that critical mass is going to have a catalytic, there she is, that critical mass is going to have a catalytic explosion in our community. Now, it's important because most of us, we attach and then disconnect and attach and disconnect. And the Lord wants us to connect, become a critical mass of people that are learning to love fearlessly and growing in our maturity and our wholeness and our relational skills. So people are going to come up and they're sharing. I don't want you to think that you have to go do this, what we're going to do. But a bunch of us from the Rock Tribe went down to Denver for a Thrive Today training experience, and it was all practice. Practice, practice, practice. We practice returning to joy when you're upset. We practice getting out of the 6 big emotions. We practiced attachment, joy. We practiced how to rest in the Lord. We practiced how to recover from pain. So there were 3 levels of training, Thrive 1, 2, well, actually 4 levels. An introductory level, and then Thrive 1, 2, and 3. And you go, usually, it's separated by a year in which you practice these skills, these relational skills, these emotional skills. So Janet and I went to track 3. So we've literally, over 4 years, we've been working on some of these skill sets. And I could feel things happening in my own life, this last one, that were really special. And I can't wait to kind of slowly roll them out to our family, what I'm learning, which I'll share in just a second. So, and so I'm going to have you guys come on up, those that went, and then we're going to practice a little rest and a little gratitude moment. So come on up and just have a seat on the stage. And so Josh and Amy were also there, and if they weren't they're really experiencing sickness today. So they wanted to be here today and share what God's done in their life over the last few months, but they couldn't be here because they're sick. And then from Kansas City, we had Ray and Emma De La Cruz from our inner city church, and we had James and Alejandra Holcomb. And so, and Naomi, thank you. Yeah, Naomi was like right in the middle of this. And to watch what happened to Ray and Emma and Naomi and the Holcombs was incredible. And maybe we'll probably get a chance to do that. So what we want to do is we're going to be sharing some of our personal stories. One other thing we're going to do is some of us, not all of us, are going to share what we call a 4+ story. Now, a 4+ story is a short testimony of about 2 to 3 minutes or less that speaks to all parts of your brain. Your brain has 4 levels, actually has 5 levels to it. That's why they say plus. Your brain has 5 levels, very, very deep part of your brain, right down into places like your amygdala, and then it goes all the way up to your prefrontal cortex. So a good story actually speaks to your whole brain because your brain is your relational center. It's where you contact Jesus and you contact people. Everybody got that? So when you hear us talking about the brain, don't think we're getting out of the Bible. The Bible says in Romans 12, you're going to be changed by the renewing of your mind. You're going to get the mind of Christ. Well, we're talking about renewing your mind now. And meditation is one of the art forms of renewing your mind. And a word of testimony is a story. It's a story of how someone overcame a tough situation with Jesus. And by hearing that story, you've got a point of reference now to walk yourself out of that sadness, out of that depression, out of that anger, and into freedom, into joy, into connection. So hell every day is trying to steal, rob, kill, and destroy you. Every day. Trying to mess up your relationships, trying to mess up your identity, trying to attack your connections with Jesus and each other all day, every day. And we need to put on the armor of Jesus and get the helmet of salvation, which is the revelation of the gospel. And so what we're doing as a story is a gospeling. It's a testimonial gospeling of how do we get out of this anxious place of attachment pain or whatever it is, and how do we get back into presencing with Jesus and connecting with one another. Are you with me now? So a story is a critical tool because our brain is built for story. That's why Jesus was such a parable telling God. Parables, the Bible is a big love story. And those stories speak to the highest places of our mind. I can give you information like, hey, go out, you should go love people. I could just give you a lecture on, hey, it's important to love. But if we tell a story, it awakens other parts of our brain in our relational center. It opens up places that cause me to move from information to revelation to application. So that's the key part of a story. A story helps me. A role model, an example helps me. It helps me, oh, so that's what that means. Oh, so that's what that means. No one was intended to do life well without examples of more mature people, without great stories, and without the connection with other people. We cannot mature and heal without those kind of relationships with people and the stories that they bring into our life. So we're going to tell some 4-part stories too, so you can, oh, that's what that means. And then over the next months and years, we will learn how to give testimonies that liberate, that mature, that heal each other. And once we get into this place of presencing with Jesus and one another, attaching with Jesus and one another, and become a relational, love-based church, the Laramie will feel that critical mass of presence. They'll feel that critical mass of affection. And they'll go, that corporate Jesus, the skin of Jesus will radiate into our community, not just Laramie, but Kansas City and elsewhere. We will radiate Jesus. And here's what happened the other night. A seamless flow of vertical presencing, and horizontal loving, vertical presencing, horizontal loving. There will be a momentum and an energy of God's heavenly realm will drop on us. And people will sense heaven on earth in our midst. That's what happened a little bit this morning, that glory, these signs and wonders. So we had that the other night. We had a party at the hotel, and our group got together and blew it out. So one more person here, this bright, shiny guy right here is Ryan, and Ryan adopted us at the Life Model Conference, or we adopted him, I can't remember which. But Ryan is a champion of joy, and so I'm glad you're up here, Ryan. So he's sort of like been an adopted, kind of, how would we do? We're just adopting you. And okay, so are you catching now what we're doing? Now listen, there's enough attachment pain inside of you right now to choke a whale. There's enough pain floating around in your life that you've stuffed or you're compensating for or dealing with that is enough to take you out right now. There is something stronger than COVID rolling around in your body, and that's portals or landing pads for hell to lie and hurt you. So we need to start this moment with some quieting. So just close your eyes, and let's just breathe a minute. You're in a safe place with Jesus. Just breathe. Focus on Jesus. Focus on Jesus. And now go to a place, a time, a person where Jesus was real to you. Where Jesus was real to you. And let gratitude fill your heart. Rejoice in the Lord always. Gratitude is a key. Just breathe. And express your gratitude to the Lord. Again, I realize we're opening up some deep places in your life. But until we go there in the core of our being and find love and find Jesus, we won't change and transform into his likeness. This is the hardest thing to do. It seems easy when the Bible says, go ahead, go love your enemies, go love, yeah. It's like, wow. So here we go. Please, I'm going to just release now faith to replace fear. Father, I just now release faith in this room that no matter what we're facing, what we have faced, no matter what pain we've encountered in our life, your faith, your life will override that, heal us, and give us an elevated place in you. I loose the faith of Jesus now, the faith of Jesus to override fear. You will be healed. You will mature. You will attach to Jesus and one another. You will learn how to love fearlessly like Jesus. Hell cannot stop you. You're a daughter and a son of the Most High God. Okay. Well, Jeff, why don't you start us off? Everybody say, hey, Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
So Tim was talking about 4+ stories, and I'm going to tell you a story about recovering from sadness. And so I have a really close friend who's going through a really difficult time right now, and he's really struggling in his marriage. And what he's finding is that most people don't, I mean, it's like because it's a big deal, most of his Christian friends are kind of like running from him. But it's like me as a follower of Jesus, even if it's uncomfortable with somebody being in a lot of pain, to have the courage to sit with him in his pain. And so about a month ago, I was having a conversation, checking in with him, and man, he was really going through it. And it was just breaking his heart. It's breaking his heart that he's having a hard time with his wife. It's really affecting his kids. Things are kind of a mess in his life. And as I just tried to listen and sit with him in his pain, man, I was feeling that pain myself. And I started crying, and it was just like breaking my heart. And my stomach was knotting up, and I just felt this burden. As I kind of got close to him, I could feel that burden on me, and that made me sad, and it kind of messed me up. And so it's like me to, when I'm experiencing something big, to talk to Emmanuel about that. And so the next morning, I was doing my Emmanuel journaling, and I was saying, Lord, this is really a burden for me, and I'm feeling pretty sad about this, and I just want to ask you, what am I supposed to do? And what's my responsibility and what's not? And so in listening to Emmanuel, he said, thanks for asking what your responsibility is, and there's 3 things I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to validate, to attune to him, find out what he's feeling, validate his pain, Just say, yeah, I can see how you would feel that way. And then I want you to point him to Jesus. And he said, I'm not asking you to do anything else. You need to just trust me to do the rest. And when he did that, this burden that I was feeling and this sadness that was in my heart really was lifted off of me as I was able to just get that direction from him, and it was very helpful.
Something that I have struggled a lot with in my walk with Jesus is I know the verses about fear. I know the verses about shame. I know the verses about love, but I am not experiencing that. I'm not experiencing that freedom. I'm not experiencing something that solidified for me this week at the training was I don't have enough examples in my life, and the way to artificially get that, if I haven't been discipled in a life-on-life way, if I haven't been mentored chronically over the last 15 years because I've been moving to different cities and countries in Africa, the way to sort of create that is to recognize, oh, I am really struggling in this area, so I am going to ask Mary, will you tell me some stories about how you have gone from fear or shame to freedom or love, but with key components, asking specifically, but how are you feeling when that happened in your heart and in your body? So something that happened this week that was really special for me is that we were having a large group Emmanuel prayer time, and specifically asking Jesus how he sees challenging people in our lives. And both of my parents had very, very painful upbringings. And as you might imagine, at this point in our journey, those relationships are challenging for me. And I very clearly sensed God saying to me, your dad is like your son David. And your mom is like your daughter Debbie. And if they had had a healthy, safe space to grow, that's what they would have been like. And I felt this wave of grief come over me. Such sadness. Just my face got full and hot, and tears were coming. And I felt something deep within me that needed to come out. And so I excused myself and went into a different room and gave voice to that grief. And after about, you know how these things go, how many minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, who knows? A woman kind of peeked in and said, do you want to be by yourself or do you need someone? And it is very much like me to recognize, yeah, I need to talk now. And so she came in and we talked, and as I shared and she validated and attuned to what I was going through, I felt my body relax and I felt lighter, and I realized, yeah, God is good, and it helped me a lot to return to joy, a happy, peaceful, joyful place while still holding this new breakthrough.
Awesome. Woo. Real quick, so when both these two stories, it's really important, Tricia did that with me. She cornered me after church a couple Sundays ago. She goes, Papa T, I need some really good 4+ stories. And I said, do you have time? In a specific
area. Something I was struggling with.
Tell in the area. It was
summarize.
Anger, disgust.
Like when someone kind of comes at me with negative energy, and seemingly out of nowhere, I don't know how to handle that. I don't know how to be myself in that situation.
Yeah, and by being yourself, we're talking about your true self, not your false self. So for we were there a couple hours telling stories, or an hour or two, whatever. And then what happened as a result of hearing those stories? Just tell them the impact.
Well, because I was like, oh, that is how someone like me, that's how people like us respond in that situation. I was able in several, and actually I haven't even told you about all of them, every day since, when someone has come with negative energy, either towards me or just in themselves, I have been able to remain myself and recognize that I can love and attune to that person without letting that negativity come into the space of Trisha and change who I am, and either reacting like defensively or whatever, all kind of my old negative ways. And it has been really life-changing for me.
So this is profound. This is what the Bible calls discipleship. Discipleship is we help one another know who we are truly like. What am I like? What is my true self? And what are my people like? And this is how discipleship works. So that we transform, we mature, we heal into Christ's likeness. And this is what we're going for, is an acceleration of this journey, because a lot of people sit in the same space for year after year and they never change, they never mature. So this is why this is so critical. So here's what you can literally do. You can say, what would the Christ in Jeff, what would Jeff do? What would the Christ in Jeff do? Because he's your people. What would Trisha do? Because she's your people. And you can co-regulate, you can synchronize your life with them and go, man, I don't know what I would do, but I know what they would do. And then all of a sudden, the Christ in them comes into you, and you become more mature in your ways of responding or ways of initiating. Do you see what I'm saying now, how this works? Super critical in terms of the discipling tool. So I just wanted to, okay, Keith, you're on.
So my story is about returning from shame to joy. And we were in a activity at the event where there were like 6 of us sitting in a circle and talking through the maturity checklist that, certain skills and abilities you have at infant level, and then at child level and adult level and like that. And so it was my turn to share, and I was talking about how I don't have certain infant level skills and certain child level skills, and beyond that, in some areas, I didn't even know. I didn't even really know what the answer was, and there was something about that was making me feel not good, and my face kind of started to get tight, and started to have that old familiar feeling of not wanting anyone to look at me, and kind of not really wanting to be there. And my immediate response was flat affect and bear through it, like I've done so many times. And Trisha was in the group and asked, just to check in, are you feeling shame right now? Because this is something that we've discussed in the past. And my immediate response was no, but there was this voice that said, be honest, this is not nothing. And so I admitted, yeah, I think there might be. And so yeah, still feeling tight, still feeling flat affect, still feeling like not wanting to make eye contact, right? And so someone in the group, I don't know, remember, said, well, can you think of a time when you remembered you experienced the presence of God, just like what Tim did earlier? And so I was like, yeah, I can. And I kind of described it. It was a time when I was at a language school, and I experienced the presence of God. And they asked me, well, do you feel better? And I was like, well, a little better. And I was describing it from the outside. And someone said, well, can you tell us more about it? Tell it what it looked like. What were you seeing? And then I described how on a certain day, it was when I had lost my job and lost my girlfriend, and I was in my mid-20s and kind of feeling like, well, I'm really starting over, right? I'm starting at zero, and felt like Jesus wanted me to go on a walk with him, and I I left the house and even kind of like, well, do we turn left or right here, Jesus? And get to the end of the town, and there's it was in Mexico. It was at a Spanish school in Mexico. Got to the end of the town. Well, where now? There's nowhere else to go. And he showed me, oh, there's this path up the mountain. Go up the mountain and get up to a certain point, and there's a clearing that's been mowed with just a beautiful view, and you can see the mountains off in the distance, and there's even like a volcano that's kind of like got smoke coming out of it. Just the beautiful churches down in the city. It's Morelia in Mexico. And just really sensing the presence of Jesus, like he'd chosen me, almost like he'd made a date with me and invited me out on a date, you know? And just peace and acceptance and love and value for me, not for anything that I could do, right? And it was just a wonderful time, and just stayed there on that clearing for several hours, really, just enjoying, right? And by the time I finished telling that story, I had a smile on my face, and I didn't have to just get through it. I was joyful.
Well, I want to thank, the worship was awesome this morning. Thank you for that. And in the process of being in this community with you guys, as you guys know, we've come here because you guys are doing this. You guys are engaging with Emmanuel and trying to learn how to love one another better, love Jesus better, and that's the key for world evangelism, for revival, for everything we all want to see, for our own healing and maturity. And so this week was great, but this whole journey with you guys has been great. So I want to thank you for inviting us into it. I was asking the Lord this morning in Emmanuel time, what do you want me to say? There was so much God did in Janice and I, and so many pieces. And even before I share that, I want to share what he said in worship. He reminded me of Jeremiah 29, where it says, if you will seek for me with all your heart, you will find me. And I've always thought that's just really going hard after God, trying to read the Bible a lot, pray a lot. And I'm realizing it ain't that at all. As I love him and seek him, as I purpose to spend time with Emmanuel, then I find him in my past. And he changes my memories. And I find him in my present. God, what are you doing here? What are you doing now? I find him in my pain, and I find him in my joy. And that's all happening now. I mean, I was Mr. Left Brain. And now God's opening up a whole new side of encountering Jesus and knowing him. And this week was a lot of training to help do that. So we had they called it manual texting, where you only take 5 minutes to text with Jesus and hear what he's saying. And then they had a manual journaling, which is where you really spend time, long time. So what I felt like he said today, Dr. Wilder has said many profound things. If you read any of his books, any of the life model stuff, some of it's, you got to read several times. The guy's brilliant. And but one of the most profound things he said, Tim alluded to it, and so did Tricia. He says the true mark of spiritual maturity is when you can love your enemies. That one's a hard one for me. Yikes. Does that mean I'm not really spiritually mature yet, Jesus? I mean, that's hard when you do the spiritual inventory, right? And you figure that there's some holes. So Chris led us in the group Emmanuel session on the topic, and Tricia alluded to it. He took us through quieting exercise while we had to, like Tim did with us this morning. Then we reflected on a golden memory or an appreciation moment to open up our relational circuits so we could hear from Jesus. And then he asked Emmanuel, he said, okay, Jesus, bring to mind the face of someone who feels like an enemy to us. Whoa. Sit in that for a little bit. And then he said, now I want you to ask the Lord this question. Lord, what do you want me to know about what you see when you look at this person? I'd never done that before. That was radical for me to get God's perspective on my enemy. And so God showed me the face of somebody I considered an enemy, and this is a portion of what he said to me. Jim, like you, this person is trying to serve me, but he is unaware of his own brokenness. He doesn't know how to return to joy, how to get free from enemy mode. He did hurt you deeply, but you need to forgive. You need to see him as I see you. I love you with your faults, weaknesses, brokenness, and failures. And you're blind to some of the ways you've hurt others too. But that hadn't stopped me from loving you. It's not your job to change him, that's my work. And if he is willing, it's your job to pray, forgive, and love. I do the rest. So now I've been reminded by Jesus what to do when I think of my enemy. When I think of the person that's really hurt me, Jesus reminded me that we are a people who pray, love, and forgive.
Let's just do that. That was, sometimes we've learned that things like this can be a little overwhelming. And so you can hear a story like that, and it's like, whoo. So one of the brain skills is to learn how to go into a rhythm. Oh, sorry. Is this on? Now, sorry. One of the skills, maturity skills or relational skills, is learning how to increase joy and then take a break and take a rest, and know how to not overwhelm people. And it's something I've really got to work on in my own personal life, is recognizing how you're coming through or coming off. And so getting overwhelmed, we need to kind of settle ourselves and return to joy. So an enemy might have been brought up into your mind, and the next thing you know, you could have gotten triggered, and then kaboom, your relational circuit just went off. Did you experience some of that? Did anybody experience some of that?
I was getting a little bit triggered.
You're getting a little bit triggered. And triggered means, yeah, that's right. So remember now, you've got gazillion implicit memories. Like, remember the iceberg picture? The tip of the iceberg is just, the littlest part of the iceberg. The biggest part is under the water, and that's our implicit memory. That's the stuff that we've gone on through our life, and it's all down there. So all somebody has to do is say the word enemy, and you could go right to your enemy file, and 5 people could drop up, and you go, all of a sudden you're in the kill zone. You want to kill somebody like that quick. And that happened to me, by the way. So we're going to just take a minute, not just now, but it happened back in the training. It didn't happen just now. So let's just breathe again. Let's just breathe. Because you want to get your relational circuit back open again, because you can't learn if it's closed. You can't learn if it's closed. Breathe again. Breathe again. Go to a golden memory. Go to Jesus. Or go to something really pleasant that you're really grateful for. Maybe you had a nice stack of pancakes this morning. That's good. That'll work. Okay? Now just thank Jesus again. Jesus, there's nothing you and I can't handle with my people. This seems overwhelming now, but you'll give me the grace to handle it. So breathe again. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Okay. It's going to be okay.
Hello, my name is Ryan, and it is great to be here. It's just the feeling of love and joy was like what I felt when I walked in the room. So it's just So awesome to be here. So it's so cool how God works. I love joy. I love relational connection. I'm so passionate about this topic. And so I appeared 3 weeks ago at this conference, and I didn't know anyone. And I got invited out to dinner with a lot of this crew, and it was just wild. And so much joy, so much life, so much encouragement. And so I'm getting a ride with Tim and Janet, and Tim's kind of saying, he's like, you're going to be a joy cultural curator. And he's like speaking this hope over me. And this car drives by, and I look up, and guess what the license plate said? Joyride. And we both looked at each other, and we're like we both kind of like just were blown away. I'm like, we got to get a picture of that, because this is the start of a joyride that I'm about to go on. So then they're like, you should go to this Joy conference this weekend or this week. And I'm like, I'm in. So here I am, and they're like, you should come up to Laramie. So I'm here, and I didn't know anyone here 3 weeks ago. I didn't even know I'd be in Wyoming 3 weeks ago. So it's so cool how God works. I mean, the stuff that happened, and I got invited in for, staying with these two. And anyway, so I think two of the biggest things that really hit me at this conference is the power of being in community with other like-minded people that love joy and relational connection. I came alive. Like, people thought I was on something at this conference, and I'm not always like that, but like the fuel of being around other people that love joy and bring life, like, did something in me. And I've been tired all week, but like life has been flowing. So it's just so powerful to be in community with relational connection and joy and experience that. And then the second thing that hit me is I'm kind of a goofball, but in Christianity, that's kind of like, like dumbed down a little bit, like you got to be serious, because that's the fruit of the Spirit, like, and so it's not really, but I've just been more playful this last 3 years, and it was so affirming because they talked about that, and this verse hit me. It said, you got to be like a child to enter the kingdom of God, and that like really hit me. I know we all know that, but like, he's teaching us some amazing reality, like to be like, have kingdom eyes, like we have to be like a child, and children run and play and laugh, and they're in the moment and they're silly. And so I was just reminded how important it is to be playful and be playful with each other, and that causes joy and life to flow out of you. So I love what's going on here. I'm excited to be here, and I just hope this next season you guys just experience so much joy and so much love and so much relational connection together.
Get my pants to come down. Well, background, or for my story, though, I shouldn't say I didn't want to go. I was hesitant about this week. I knew that there were some relational skills that are uncomfortable, a little bit awkward, and so I went with some fear and trepidation. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I think y'all had a chance with the Corsies and Michael Hendricks to practice some eye contact skills. Have you do that? Well, I'd heard about it, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And so, even though we've been married 41 years, I thought, I don't know. We had a comedian that was talking about an eye exam where he said, are you looking into my soul? That's how I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. So anyway, background, I was able to do it, and it was an amazing week. So God did some great things in our lives. We had some incredible divine appointments that I'll tell another time. But what happened for me is I have, over the last few years, struggled with some vertigo, the kind where the crystals get loose in the canals. And anyway, it was awful. On Labor Day this year, I rolled over, and I could feel it, and I began to turn. And it was awful. It was a couple of weeks of spinning before they finally captured all the crystals and got them back where they could dissolve. So the whole time we've been gone, I've been dealing with, once the spinning stopped, I had whooshing in my head. I described it like if I turned my head, like a split second later, my brain would go, oh, she just turned her head, and try to catch up. So it always felt like I was behind and just off. And I've had to sleep kind of propped up in bed. And then I've just lived with this anxiety that it was going to happen again. So I was starting to get better. I was at the conference, was doing better. The wishiness was still there. And then I think on Thursday, we were in our small group, and I turned and almost fell out of my chair. And it was like, in the night when I was sleeping, I had rolled over and I had felt this wave, and I mean, my anxiety was up to here. And so I went to the meeting, and I turned, and I was like, oh my gosh. Well, these three right here, Trisha and Keith and Jim, it was the break for lunch. They started praying for me. And while they were praying, I got so hot. I was starting to perspire. I was so hot. And Keith said his hand was really hot. When they finished, it was gone. So I am totally believing that God healed me on Thursday. So, hallelujah.
Hey, real quick, we are going to actually have a little time of prayer for healing, for coming to Jesus. We want to begin to develop that, incorporate that at the end of our Sunday mornings, where we have ministry time for people to come to Christ or to experience healing or Emmanuel healing. So after we're done, we're gonna have a prayer time. Is that cool? Hey, Janice, that was great. That's exciting.
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, really.
If you all know me, this week was exhausting. We were in track 3, and we had Chris Corsi, and there were 6 of us in that group, which he was really thrilled it was small, because we're going deep. We're going through 5 levels of pain, and if anybody was going to walk me through that, Chris Corsi was the best. And he started throughout the week with level 5 was the weakest pain. So by Friday, we were down to level 1, that's intense, of pain that we've experienced in the past. And he was so careful. He kept, each time we would go into an exercise, he goes, keep it light. I mean, we're talking pain, but don't go so intense that you're going to trigger yourself and your partner in the story. And so it was so good to, I was scared because part of me didn't know, what's going to pop up? What have I stuffed? I'm a good stuffer. If it hurts so bad, that's where Miss Dismissive pops up, and just ignore it. It'll go away. So a lot of times when we'd go in an exercise, I went totally blank. I couldn't think of a story. So it was revealing to me, wow, Janet, you have stuffed some pain. And I just feel like the Lord is, especially with Tim and me, he's gently taking us into a season. Ministry, it's not for sissies. If you're going to open your heart, it's going to feel trampled sometimes. It's going to feel attacked. It's going to be joyful. It's not all bad. But he's taking us this year slowly to where now next month we're going to go to Atlanta and then go maybe even deeper into strongholds or in that kind of deal. But this week, I'll tell you, my highlight was Thursday night. We gathered our Rock Tribe family at the hotel and sat in a corner. And so this is our peeps from Kansas City, from here. Was there any other location? Well, you're here. Oh, and David and Narelle from Bridgeway Church. And I'll tell you, it was like somebody said at the end, now this is church. I mean, we were laughing. We were crying together. People would get a prophetic word. Everybody's phone would go to that person that's giving the prophetic word. And when it was over, I mean, we have one more day, but we'd been intense for 4 days. it was like I could feel everybody was so energized. It was like, this was awesome. So I was proud of you all, and just seeing everybody hang in there and going, no, we're going to a painful area, we're gonna face it. And I saw a lot of victories. I was with your group when you went through the shame story, and it was so awesome to see the change. And I was proud of you that you picked it up, that your hubby was going there. That the change of what he was starting to go through, and she just, okay, are you feeling this? Okay, let's just go to a golden memory. And his golden memory just popped him right out of it. So this stuff works.
Janet, you're just cuter than ever. My wife is cute, man. So I feel like, as a family, the way I'm describing myself and our family is in the birthing process, we're going through and into transition phase. Now, I was an observer when Janet went through transition. So I literally have no idea of the degree of pain she was in, but it sure looked bad. And when a woman's giving birth to a baby, there's a not every woman goes through this, but many do. When they hit about that 7 centimeter period and they jump from 7 to 10 centimeters, and they just basically look at, Janet looked at me and goes, I can't go through with this. That's what she said. I was like, we've passed the point of no return, sister. And it's like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I'm sorry, girl. It's not an option. Then she goes, give me drugs. And we had already agreed with Lamaze, we're not going to do drugs. She goes, give me drugs. Doctor goes, we can't do drugs, too late for that too. And so Janet's at this wall, like a runner's wall. She can't go through. And everything feels like it's not going to it's awful. It's not going to happen. It's terrible. And then, of course, we go on through. And with Jason, it was a Mack truck that came out, like a 10.5-pound, 24-inch beast came out of my wife. And I thought, now, what's going on? So transition is a time in a group's life when they're coming up to a moment where the Lord wants to bring them on through, but it feels really hard, really painful, really confusing. And what's going on with me? And I just believe that God has us in his hands and that we're going to make it. We're going to give birth. We're going to get there. It's not going to be the easiest thing, but we're going to get there. And, one of the things that this whole experience of being in the Thrive training was very hard on me because I very much want to have to be competent in relationships. And on Thrive 3, they went in detail over what it feels like to have a level 5 pain. And that's not the worst one. That's the starting pain. And then level 1 is the worst. That's when you're so shut down, you can't even function. Words won't help you. You are completely out of it. And so we went into the depth to describe the pain. And then how do you help walk somebody out of that? And the more I learned about it in this last few months, the more I realized I've got a long way to grow in my competency in this area. And that if we're going to be good at helping people give birth to their destiny and their identity, a competency level is going to need to go up in our maturity and in our skill set. And so I'm appealing for patience with me, with ourselves, with our leadership team, with yourself. Be patient in the transition. Be patient because we are going to have some seriously uncomfortable experiences, and it's going to come out what we don't know. But that being consciously incompetent is a breakthrough. When you realize I don't know how to do this very well, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing because then you can work on it. Then you can do something about it. And the good news is there's a lot of resources that are surrounding us right now that are going to help us get to a place where we're competent at this. So we're going into transition. It's going to be okay. Something great's going to get birthed, but it won't be easy. And that's the note I want to leave you with. And my own growth, my own sense that Jesus is doing deep things in my life and Janet's life, and thus our life too. It's very exciting to me. So what we want to do now is just, I want to have you breathe again, and I want to ask, have you asked the Lord, what did you want me to know today? Ask Jesus, like, what did you want me to know today? In particular, review with me, something that hit me good and is in a good way. Some hope. So Jesus, what do you want me to know right now? Beautiful. Jesus is speaking to some of you. He's putting hopeful words in you, promises. A promise is an invitation. And would you just stand with me now? I'm gonna pray a blessing, and then we're gonna be available up here. The people up front to pray for you. And Bob and Diana, if you could join us too. And if we'd like to pray for you right now. So just connect with somebody near you physically. Just get close to somebody. And with the grace of God, the Holy Spirit, would you just extend another invitation to Jesus and just say, yes, I'm willing to go through this transition. I'm willing to become a fearless lover. Jesus, do what it takes. This is the invitation. Jesus, do what it takes to transform me into fearlessly loving like Jesus.